In this story from the post-millennial, CNN fact check attempts to discredit Biden impeachment inquiry, but instead confirms its merit. I find it also humorous. The other day, we learned that the White House was sending a letter out to major media organizations, effectively instructing them to scrutinize the impeachment against Joe Biden. And they've tried. I don't think Biden even really needed to send that letter out because the media outlets were doing it anyway. One of my favorites is how they keep inserting without evidence. Kevin McCarthy launches an impeachment inquiry without evidence. There is so much evidence that you could probably convict Joe Biden today if you presented it to a jury. But fine. We'll slow roll it because the Republicans presumably are playing politics and want to have the impact of each accusation, each bit of evidence be as thick and as palpable as possible. But Michael Tracy brings up a good question. He tweeted, are the Republicans really going to be impeaching Joe Biden for something he did 8 or 9 years ago in the Obama administration? It's a good question. But the shocking revelation is that Rep. Gosar says this is basically why Joe Biden is funneling money to Ukraine. It's all connected. You see, as vice president, Joe Biden was involved in corrupt business dealings. I got the evidence. Okay, fine. I don't want to hold back. I'll make sure I bring it up right away. Biden Inc. from Politico magazine. We got it all laid out. We'll go through it all. But this shows you right here. This is what Joe Biden had been doing. And if he is the point person on Ukraine, then the evidence all lines up. Now, as president, for some reason, we're involved in a border dispute with Russia. Oh, come on. I know there's a big picture here. We can talk about energy into Europe, Gazprom, etc. I mean, you've got the Nord Stream 2 pipeline explosion. We're facing World War III for what? The Donbass? Okay, so Russia wants Crimea. They took it. It's access to the Black Sea for Russia, and they want a land bridge there because right now they have that other bridge, and I guess Ukraine tried to blow it up, and then you now have Russia trying to seize the Donbass to create a land bridge from Russia into Crimea. We call it land bridge, but basically to have territory they control so they can have roads going into Crimea, their warm water port. There's a Russian military base, been there for a long time, naval base. It's the home of their Black Sea fleet. Because it's their port. I mean, it is what it is. So all this makes sense. But if Russia wants to take it, why is it our business? Now, they make all these arguments like, oh, Russia is coming for Poland next. Oh, come on. Russia is doing everything to avoid, or I should say they're trying to avoid directly inciting NATO and targeting NATO territory. But it will escalate that far because the U.S. has decided to intervene. Now, look, I'm not a fan of Russia invading Ukraine and taking the Donbass. That's bad. But there is no justification presented to any of us as to why the U.S. should be involved in this conflict. So I think there's a strong reason to argue that the conduct committed by Joe Biden as vice president has continued to this day. And you know what? For that, an impeachment inquiry is sound. But let's get started by reading this from the post-millennial. CNN fact check attempts to discredit Biden impeachment inquiry, but instead confirms its merit. I love this one. Here you go. On Wednesday, CNN attempted to fact check claims surrounding the Biden family's reported illegal foreign business dealings, but inadvertently fact checked themselves instead. I love this. When trying to discredit House Speaker Kevin McCarthy's claims that the Biden family and their associates have received more than $20 million from shell companies as misleading, the network confirmed the Republican speaker's comments. The network writes, claim, Biden family and associates got $20 million through shell companies. Bank records show that nearly $20 million in payments were directed to the Biden family members and associates through various shell companies, McCarthy said. Facts first, reports CNN. This is true about Joe Biden's family and associates, but there is no public evidence to date that the president personally received any money. Now, here's the best part. That's a lie. There is evidence. Now, is there proof? No. You see, this is the game they play. Evidence and proof are two different things. Proof is like a video of a guy kicking a dog. And then someone says, did you kick the dog? And the guy says, no, here's a video showing you kicking the dog. Then you walk into the camera, state your name, birthday, and social security number, state your intention was to kick the dog, and we have 4 different angles of this video. That's proof. Evidence is the dude has mud on his boots from the backyard where the dog was, and the boot prints in the yard match his boots. Could it be that someone else had the exact same boot? Yes, which is why it's not proof, it's evidence. But you present the evidence to a reasonable person, they're going to be like, come on, man. The likelihood someone else had the exact same shoe size, exact same boot, went in and kicked the dog, slim to none. But we do want to have, we do want to make sure we're not just condemning the innocent off of one piece of evidence. So when it comes to Joe Biden, is there evidence that he received money? Yeah, it's called Hunter Biden saying he gave his dad the money. I mean, what else do you do? It's like if there's a dude and he's like, it's my dog, or it's like, I was with this guy, he's my friend, I watched him kick the dog. They'd be like, I don't know, there's no evidence. What? That's laughably insane. There's more. There's, of course, the witness testimony from Devin Archer and Tony Bobulinski, associates of the Biden family, who outright said they were doing this. And then you have, of course, the emails where it's 10% for the big guy. Yes, they testified. We know who the big guy is. There's so much evidence. It's insane. But here's the best part. They accidentally confirmed what McCarthy had said. Why? Well, did Kevin McCarthy say, we have proof positive of criminal activity from Joe Biden? No, he said, the Biden family and their associates, received $20 million. Bank records show that $20 million in payments were directed to the Biden family members and associates through various shell companies. Where did he say Joe Biden personally received it? Fact check. This is true about Biden. Thanks. Have a nice day. That's all we needed. Because now the question is, if we have all of this evidence, perhaps we should open an investigation. Aha. A preponderance of evidence exists that Joe Biden may have done this. Let's investigate. Gather the evidence in an impeachment inquiry, present it before the grand jury, which in this case would be Congress, and have a vote if we should indict on these charges. In which case, the answer is yes, resoundingly. So thanks for that, CNN. But as I mentioned earlier, Michael Tracy asks an important question. He said, Republicans are really going to impeach Joe Biden for conduct from 8 or 9 years ago when he was vice president in the Obama administration? Does that mean they're giving up on ever doing any real oversight to the Biden administration? You know, the one actually in power right now? One individual responded saying the conduct is ongoing. More importantly, Rep. Gosar himself tweeted, in my view, our nation's involvement in a proxy war with Russia is a direct result of these Ukrainian bribes that are going on in real time right now. I agree. I give you the Babylon Bee. Democrats say it'll take a lot more than eyewitness testimony, bank records, audio, video, complete confessions for them to believe Biden did anything wrong. It's funny because the Babylon Bee isn't even really satire. They're just creating titles that are true in a humorous way. I mean, it is satire that Democrats didn't literally come out and say that, but come on. Yeah, they basically said that. And it's just the proof is insane. Tony Bobulinski's testimony, Devin Archer's testimony. It's been 3 years. Hunter Biden's laptop, text messages, leaked emails. Victims of Biden family influence peddling signing sworn affidavits. Victor Shokin signed a sworn affidavit saying that Joe Biden did this. In reference to the Burisma scandal. That he was fired because of Joe Biden's influence peddling. Devin Archer testified that Hunter Biden called D.C. to get the prosecutor fired. Joe Biden then flies to Ukraine and says, if you don't fire the prosecutor, you're not getting $1 billion. Mykola Zlochevsky, the founder of Burisma, was under criminal investigation by the prosecutor and by multiple agencies, had his assets frozen and fled the country. The prosecutor gets fired by Joe Biden because of Joe Biden instructing it. And then the new guy comes in, clears Zlochevsky of wrongdoing. Zlochevsky then returns to the country. When Donald Trump gets in office and starts looking into these crimes, Zlochevsky once again flees. It is so insanely obvious to any reasonable person. But here we are. The Democrats, their lies are palpable. It's amazing. So here's the funny thing. Let's go back to the post-millennial. Claim Biden family and associates got $20 million through shell companies. Is it evidence of wrongdoing that the Biden family received $20 million from foreign entities and foreign governments? Yes. Is it proof? No. So why then does CNN's Oliver Darcy write that there's no evidence? No evidence of a crime, despite the fact that there is evidence of a crime. But let me break it down for you once again. Let's do another analogy. A man at a liquor store is shot and killed. He's robbed. The person used let's say they used a Smith, I think it's a Smith & Wesson, a Governor. It's a revolver that can take 45 long and 410 shotgun shells. The shells in question were defensive slugs, 410 slugs. The police get a description of a man. They find a man who lives nearby, who in fact has a Governor and has the exact same 410 slugs. This is evidence. They say there's a man we discovered living nearby, and he has the same weapon that had been recently fired with the same shells. They find those shells, the same shells, near his apartment and near the liquor store half a block away. Evidence of a crime does not mean proof. They then investigate. Turns out, not him at all. These shells were they fell out of he had collected he picked up his brass and his trash from a firing range, had it in his car, or got stuck in his pant leg and fell out. And they later find that, while they are the same, this guy has a rock solid alibi and video evidence that he was nowhere near the scene of the crime. That, the alibi, is proof he did not do it. And thus he's exonerated. They investigate. So here's what happens. They say, somebody found shells nearby at this house. We've investigated. We got a warrant. People are accusing the guy, saying, we know you did it. And the cops go in. And the guy says, I wasn't even here, man. It's a commonly used shell. You see, my point is, that's evidence, but it doesn't prove it. And thus, the guy did nothing wrong. So what do we say? We say Joe Biden received money. Joe Biden's associates, his family's associates, people he had known and lied about talking to and providing information to, are doing these deals and getting this money. And they're claiming it's going to Joe Biden. That's a lot of evidence. Doesn't prove it just yet. In my view, I believe it proves it beyond a reasonable doubt. But what's the process? You find the shells on the ground and you say, we are going to begin investigating a person of interest. We're not even calling him a suspect yet. Turns out he's got an alibi. Sorry for wasting your time. So now we begin that process with Joe Biden. The media lying, in my opinion, actually backs up the claims. They are so desperate to downplay all of the evidence. I think it actually makes it look worse for Joe Biden, considering he sent them a letter telling them to do it. Like, holy crap, dude. Let's try another scenario. Liquor store gets robbed. They find a 410 shell on the ground. A guy a block away has the same shells in front of his house. The dude calls the press. He's a wealthy businessman, and he instructs them, do not report on this. And if you do, you better tell them I'm innocent. Now I'm like, this is kind of weird. There's an email where it's like, we're delivering these shells to this guy's house. And his neighbor says, yes. A guy who works with him says he was really pissed off at the store owner. Do we have a video of him committing the murder? No. But you have neighbors and his coworkers being like, oh, he was ragging on that guy all the time. I worked for him and he instructed me to go to that liquor store and complain and demand a refund. It's like, okay, at a certain point, it all stacks up. But you know what? Whatever happened to this guy happens to this Joe Biden. I don't know where we ultimately do end up, but I know that Joe Biden is hurting, and so they're desperate. Take a look at this story from Axios. Biden's new attack wrapped the GOP in MAGAnomics. Oh, I love this opening paragraph from Axios. President Biden initially resisted the term Bidenomics when he embraced it until he embraced it to tout his economic record. Now he's trying to stick a label on Republicans, MAGAnomics. Oh, okay. To accuse them of plotting an assault on Medicare, Social Security, and the middle class, blah, blah, blah. So when the economy has some good numbers, it's Bidenomics. And now that things are getting bad, well, we got to blame the Republicans for all the moves they're making against you. Oh, please, just spare me, dude. I find it laughable. Here we go. NBC News. Far-right Republicans tell McCarthy his impeachment inquiry won't soften their spending demands because it's really all about the government shutdown. That's what the Democrats are trying to claim. They just want to impeach. It is crazy. We had Ian Crossland on the show last night said he was talking to his mom and he mentioned the impeachment and she said, yeah, but there's no evidence. And it's like, why would you say that? Serious question. Like, why would someone say that? And his mom was like, there's no evidence. He's like, but why would you say there is or isn't? That's a weird thing to do, right? It's because this is the purpose of the manipulation of organizations like CNN. This is why I say Oliver Darcy, media reporter for CNN, is abject evil, because he knows what he's doing. I've talked to the guy. I've talked to him about a bunch of different stories. He knows he's lying and manipulating. There is no reason to include the sentence, when you say Kevin McCarthy opened an impeachment inquiry, comma, despite having found no evidence of criminal wrongdoing. That's a lie, and it's unnecessary. What it is a primer for manipulation. Your average person then passively reads the story and then later just says, but there's no evidence. What do you mean? Yeah, there is. And yeah, but what do you mean? No, there isn't. Sure. There's the statements from Tony Bobulinski, the statements from Devin Archer, the text messages from Hunter Biden saying he's giving the dad the money. There's the video of Joe Biden engaging in a quid pro quo. And there's the victim of the influence peddling, signing a sworn affidavit saying he lost his job as prosecutor because Joe Biden intervened to get him fired. And it likely was due, according to Devin Archer, because Hunter Biden called DC and said, get the prosecutor fired. He's coming after my company. It's amazing. But people don't read any of that stuff. They see CNN and just regurgitate it and repeat it like a mindless drone. And that's where we are. But the good news is, my friends, the panic is real. Take a look at this. Trump versus Biden. Oh, boy. Well, Biden's had the lead for a while. And Trump has taken it before. But right now, the Real Clear Politics average, as of right now, shows Trump is up. That's right. The aggregate polling for Trump versus Biden shows Trump winning. We didn't have this in 2020. In 2019. No poll throughout the entire election season, according to CNN, that CNN conducted, I'm not talking about other polls, CNN said, out of all the polls we conducted, we never saw Trump ahead of Biden. Now we do. Take a look at this. CNN's poll from August 25th to August 31st. 1,259 registered voters with a 3.6 margin of error has Trump up one. That makes it a statistical tie, to be fair. And Biden does have a lead in a few other polls. But the latest from Quinnipiac has Biden up one. Messenger has Trump up one. There's a Wall Street Journal tie. Emerson and the New York Post have Trump up. If you take a look at this chart going back, from April until July, Trump was actually favored to beat Joe Biden. Biden took the lead briefly. Trump has taken it back. So there was a period where Trump was in the lead. There was a small time in February where Trump was in the lead. But I think it is all entirely fair to say that the Democrats are panicking over Joe Biden's prospects, which is why in the earlier segment I said I think Joe Biden will drop out. I want to say that he's going to do it in some way or another. I believe it will happen. I entertain the possibility and probability. I could be wrong on this, but I think you can't. I think it is a reasonable thing to say that if you look at all the evidence, all the moves they make politically, the statements they've made about about Biden being too old. They say Trump's too old too. All of that lines up to, they know they cannot have Joe Biden run. The only logical path is Joe Biden drops out for one reason or another. Maybe it's medical. They need to give him a clean exit. I love this from the New York Times. Trump has been privately encouraging GOP lawmakers to impeach Biden. The former president has talked regularly with members of the House Freedom Caucus and other congressional Republicans who pushed for impeachment. Yes, because they want to make sure you all know that behind the scenes, Trump is trying to remove his political rival. Whatever. I don't care that Trump is doing this. In fact, I encourage it. In fact, I'm saying publicly and boisterously on camera every day, Joe Biden should be impeached. I can't say it enough. I can't list the evidence enough. And I've even gone through everything. In some videos, I've gone through a lot, but there's so much. I mean, just to say it again, 2 people in the Biden family circle confessed, gave sworn testimony saying, yep, they did it. That's amazing to me. So they want to drag Donald Trump. In the meantime, they've called Trump's claims that Biden instructed Garland to prosecute him. They call that a conspiracy theory. Yeah, because here's what happens. Trump reads the news. He then repeats it. The news then backtracks and claims Trump's lying. It's the funniest thing about the corporate press is when they report something, Politico, for instance, Ukraine meddled in the 2021, I'm sorry, in the 2016 election. Why did I say 2021? Politico reported that. I'm going to make sure I pull it up because, everybody always, you'll get these lefties watching these videos and be like, that's not true. That's not true. Uh-oh, Politico reported it. Ukrainian effort to sabotage Trump backfire. Yeah. January 11th, 2017. I can cover this 1,000,001 times. They wanted to help Hillary Clinton. They leaked information on Manafort. Trump reads this. he then gives a rally where he's like, "Do you see this? Ukraine trying to help Hillary Clinton, crooked Hillary." And then the media comes out and says, Trump's pushing Russian propaganda. Huh? He's just citing Politico. And then Politico EU writes a couple years later that the claims that Ukraine interfered is Russian propaganda. I'm still waiting for Politico to retract this story. Amazing. The Ukrainian efforts had an impact in the race, helping to force Manafort's resignation and advancing the narrative Trump's campaign was deeply connected to Ukraine's foe in the East, Russia. But they were far less concerted or centrally directed than Russia's alleged hacking and dissemination of Democratic emails. I think that's correct. Based on my assessment, what seems to be is a few individuals in high positions in Ukraine were trying to sabotage Trump. Whereas Russia's interference, which it exists, but I don't think it's anywhere near as pronounced as the Democrats want you to believe. But the Russians, of course, interfered. And I think it's fair to say most countries do, but Russia did, and it was more centralized and direct. That's a bad thing. We do not like Russia for these reasons. But to act like this was not reported, when Trump sees it and says it, they then come out and act like, oh, no. But let's not forget the reality. Joe Biden instructed Merrick Garland to target Donald Trump. And the message is loud and clear. If you want to get ahead, you will do as the Democratic Party wants. So, should Joe Biden be impeached? Absolutely. The conflict is at the highest levels of government, and it's not going away anytime soon. If Donald Trump loses this time around for whatever reason, this anti-establishment wave is not stopping, be it the left or the right. Now, leftists, for some reason, tend to defend the establishment when it comes to Trump, even though they otherwise act like it's a bad thing. Here's what I think. But you've got Bernie Sanders and Trump as the insurgent candidates, but Bernie lost and Trump won. When Trump takes over the party, the neocons lose it. They try to stop him. They team up with Democrats. We've seen this. The leftists, knowing the right in any fashion are their enemies, will accuse Trump of being the establishment, despite knowing he's opposed to their machine. They just don't want him to win. They want to win. So they will back their enemies, the neolibs, if it means getting rid of Trump. I think it'll be interesting to see how all this plays out. But in the meantime, I'd like to thank CNN for confirming that Joe Biden was receiving illicit money. Or should I say his family was receiving illicit money, which is confirming what McCarthy said and warrants an impeachment inquiry. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.